Crime continues to plague the country, and political leader of the NTA and former police commissioner Gary Griffith is now calling on both the government and the opposition to put politics aside and work together to treat with crime. He joins us now to tell us more. Mr. Griffith, yesterday in your statement, you said you were speaking as a patriot and not a politician. Mr. Griffith, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, good morning to you and to your many viewers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, to many, Mr. Griffith, this may have come as a surprise to them and may have come from left field.
Well, I beg to differ. I think I have been bombarded with calls from thousands on a regular basis, asking me to do something, to contribute. It is difficult for anyone to do that unless you're in some position that can actually implement the policies that are required. Bearing that in mind, I realized that, listen, enough is enough. It reminds me a time when there was a US president. He was shot. And when he was actually going into the hospital, this was President Reagan, he told the doctor, I hope that you're a Republican. And the doctor said, we are all Republicans today, Mr. President. Now, I'm not saying for everybody to be a PNM today. What I'm saying is that we should all understand the real situation here. The real enemy would not be those who are political opponents. It has nothing to do with party card. This is a time where we must circle the wagons and ensure that we are fighting good versus evil. And this is where all hands must come on deck. We must work together as a team. I have absolutely no issue at all if it is that what I can do and provide to assist in reducing crime in this country. If the government and the opposition, they benefit from it, that is irrelevant to me. I think the priority now is for us to work together and ensure that we can use the expertise that is available out there to ensure that we can implement the proper policies to reduce crime.
But Mr. Griffith, some of your critics may say that what you're suggesting here is really pie in the sky, in that how possible is it for you and the Prime Minister? It may be easier for you and the opposition to sit down, but history will show and comments over the years from you will show that you have been very, very harsh on the government as it relates to crime. In recent times, you have even been harsh on the Prime Minister and the National Security Minister. So how possible is this?
Well, this is where maturity comes in. To start with, I recall when I was a Minister of National Security in the previous government, even though crime was actually going down, there was that dialogue that would take place. It is critical. So regardless of the fact that we may have different views, I may have obvious concerns pertaining to the performance of the government. I can't wait until, or the country cannot wait until 2025. I will think that as a responsible government, if you realize that you're not doing what is required, you will try to seek the advice and the support from anyone. It should never be which party card is in your back pocket. You should have you should be able to appreciate and embrace persons who are willing to assist you. I am here not, as I said, my priority is as a patriot more than a politician. If it is all for the government to decide or not, I mean, everyone will have their expertise and their field. We may all be political leaders and politicians. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, she's an expert in the field of law. I am an expert in the field of national security. Keith Rowley is an expert in the field of geology. So if it comes to that matter of concern, you will think that you will use that person. All that I am doing is giving the government the opportunity to utilize my services. I do not need a job. I do not need a post. All I can do is to show them that what was done in 2014 when I was Minister of National Security, it was not by luck that it was the lowest number of serious crime in 31 years. In my last year as Commissioner of Police, it was not luck that it was the highest reduction in violent crime in 25 years. I know what is required. The reason why I've also written to the leader of the opposition is that this is not just about Gary Griffith and Keith Rowley. All hands must come on deck, because we could look at, I'm not going to go into detail pertaining to the systems that we did, but there were over 100 policies, and it moves from the use of I could assist them in how to set up a proper border protection unit to prevent illegal guns from entering the country. What it was done that caused the country to see an end to kidnappings and home invasions through the use of technology, through the use of a proper system for deterrence and rapid response from a 999, the ERP, Emergency Response Patrol, the GPS tracking, the Operational Command Center, and also utilizing the importance of the opposition, because legislation is also required. And again, all that I'm saying is not based on guess. It is based on immense research from myself and my team that took over 18 months, and that is where we're seeing the massive decline. The legislation pertains to the most simple thing. We speak about so much about assault weapons. Somebody is held in this country with an assault weapon, and you can just plead guilty and be fined $10,000. That legislation should be changed, and anyone found with an illegal assault weapon, so that is deemed in most countries a terrorist act, because an assault weapon means you can kill, you can fire off 35 rounds in 3 seconds. That becoming a terrorist act, it means that is now a capital offense. That could provide a deterrent. So those are the things that we can bring to the table.
You're saying you're not speaking as a politician, but isn't this about politics? And there could be a political benefit to your party, to you and your party, because let's say you are successful, then people are going to say, well, Gary Griffith was successful in bringing the parties together, and it shows it shows a sort of leadership from you, and that can benefit your party for when the next election is called?
Well, I think it could work the other way around. If it is that if I am a political leader or a prime minister, and the biggest concern that the country has is crime, and we are failing miserably, I would want to show my maturity and say, listen, I know, Keith Rowley, I'm willing to work with anyone to help you, the citizens, with your fundamental right to safety and security. If and when crime is reduced yet again dramatically, he's the one that is the country is going to say that I am seeing you now as being so mature, you're willing to put ego aside, put political affiliation aside, and do what is right for the country. It means that you are now putting priority as to serving the country rather than your ego or being arrogant and saying, I do not want to work with anyone else because you don't have my same party card. So I think that benefits an individual. It is what happened in 2020. I was the poster boy for the PNM going into the 2020 general election. It was the only time you saw a commissioner of police in the centerfold in their manifesto, and it worked for them. So and that is what helped them greatly into getting back in 2020. So that is irrelevant to me. Obviously, I would want, the reason I'm a politician is to get in government, but at this time, that is secondary to me, and it should be secondary to all citizens. And the priority should be making sure that citizens can feel safe. We're in trying times. There's good versus evil. We are actually seeing video footage of a certain lady actually telling people indirectly to invade the homes of Indo-Trinidadians. That is what we are experiencing right now in this country. All that I am doing is offering my services to try to help, not Keith Rowley, but the country, Trinidad and Tobago. And I am asking all the political leaders, this is the time we must work together as a team. Irrelevant of the fact that this may benefit the PNM and Keith Rowley, that is secondary to me. I would always put country before politics. And all I am doing is I have written to both the leader of the opposition and the prime minister, asking them to think along the same manner.
So you are optimistic that a meeting could be held between the political parties and your party?
No, definitely not. It remains to be seen. I can't speak on behalf of Dr. Keith Rowley or Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. All I can do is make a recommendation. I think this recommendation can be fruitful. If this can work and one life could be saved, just one, we would have accomplished something. But I can assure you, as I said, in 2014, it was the lowest number of serious crime in 31 years. In 2021, the murder rate was 342 in my last year. It has now gone to over 600, and it continued to diminish because we had over 100 policies of simple things that we were putting in place, and it pegged back the criminal elements. It provided the deterrent. It ensured that crime was number 1 in August 2018. In August 2021, it moved to number 4 considering the country, behind health, education, and the economy. We can do this. We can do this as a team, working together. And this is where I am asking and hoping that politicians can be mature, that we put all our ego aside, and we do what is right for Trinidad and Tobago.
What are you hoping that if this meeting happens and the politicians come together, what are you hoping that they can come together and do about the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, definitely. Unfortunately, the present Minister of National Security, and that's why I am not here to point fingers or to criticize any politician. People make mistakes. The present Minister of National Security, when he stated that it is not his job to implement policies, that is incorrect. The catalyst for crime reduction will be the implementation of government policies. Meeting the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition, it is to show and explain to them these are the policies that worked. If it is we implement the same policies, it is going to play a big part towards pegging back the criminal elements. Initially, the concern was always gang versus gang. What we're seeing now is that the criminal elements have now invaded into the privacy of citizens through home invasions, kidnapping. So it is no longer just criminal element versus criminal element. What we have, we have the policies, we have the plans, we know what was required, and it pegged them back. It provided a deterrent. It took away the product of opportunity by providing a high visibility, a rapid response. We did what was known as predictive policing, using the use of technology and social media monitoring and covert operations. It played a big part for us to anticipate a murder before it took place, and that is why the Special Operation Response Team, the Social Media Monitoring Unit, all of these things were formed to stop the murder from taking place. So the secondary concern or focus will then be on trying to deal with solving the crime. So the predictive policing was critical. This year, I don't want to go into detail, but the fact is, as I said, over 100 proper policies and operational plans were effective through policies, and the policies were then operationalized by the police service and the other arms of the protective services. If I explain this to them, I show them how it can be done, they can take it and go with it and then get all the praise, get all the success, get all the value, but Trinidad and Tobago would benefit.
Is it your view that some of the plans that you spoke about a short while ago, is it your view that some of these plans were not continued when you left office as police commissioner, and that is responsible for the increase in crime that we are seeing?
Yeah, not some, all. Over 100 policies, the concept of the Emergency Response Patrol, the National Operations Center, the Commissioner's Command Center, the Operational Command Center, the GPS tracking on the police vehicles, the effective 999 system, elite units formed and then disbanded, predictive policing, technology. It was the first time the country started seeing when a kidnapping took place. It wasn't just the police assisted in paying the kidnapper, but we actually raided the homes, arrested the kidnapper whilst they were still in possession of the victim. Those things were all gone because the plug was pulled. So the type of technology, I'm definitely not going to explain, but the kidnappers in this country realized what the heck is going on here? How could they find us? And those are the things that technology is there. We were able to go into the dark web. We were able to pinpoint, analyze, and know everything that is taking place and anticipate the situation, put in that high visibility. The biggest criticism I got as Commissioner of Police is that they were seeing too many blue lights and too many sirens. Now, because people knew, the criminals knew, I jump a wall, I commit a crime, within 2 to 3 minutes, you will get a police response because we had that blanket in the country. We know how to reignite it. Now we reach a situation where someone could shoot a man in a nightclub, which is opposite the commissioner's residence, 2 minutes from a police station, and it may take 40 minutes for a vehicle to turn up. The product of opportunity is now there for the criminals. All that I am saying is that we have the understanding to know exactly what is required. It is not going to take long. It is to present to the government for them to operationalize what it is that we can do. But it also requires the input of the leader of the opposition. The country is divided, sometimes deliberately by individuals, and that division based on hatred and bitterness, and that division is based on politics and race, it must end. This is the time that I'm asking Trinidad and Tobago. Sometimes you can see something that good can come out of this. The country, we're experiencing our darkest hour. And all that I ask is for politicians to work together as a team. We may never have the same affiliation. We may never be supportive of each other politically. But when it comes to providing the citizens with their most fundamental right, which is that of safety and security, this is a time that I'm asking Trinidad and Tobago, the politicians, it is time for us to work together.
So then what's the next step? You have written this letter. You have dispatched the letter to the offices of the Prime Minister and also the opposition leader. What's the next step?
Well, the ball is in their court. It is hoped that they would respond. If it is that they do not, well, then I would have done what I could have done. That is all I could have done at this time. I just hope that good sense would prevail. But the reason by me also making this public was to explain to Trinidad and Tobago, my job when I came back and decided to get back into politics wasn't just to be probably our next prime minister or to be in government, but to unite Trinidad and Tobago. This here is something that can be done. The situation of this country being so divided because of race, because of politics, sometimes it's leadership that has caused this, and this plays an indirect part towards crime taking place. So my intention is to unite Trinidad and Tobago in every single way that I can, and I'm not waiting until I am in government in 2025 or even before. If I can do it now to assist in some way to unite Trinidad and Tobago, for us to understand the person who is the enemy, well, is not the person who has a different political party card, but the person who takes away your right to safety and security. I fight good versus evil. This is right versus wrong. And I do not see whether you're PNM, UNC, ABC, or XYZ, you are not the enemy. Let us take away that. I remember sometimes I used to hear politicians saying PNM is the enemy or the UNC is the enemy. It is a stupid statement. And that division, who benefits from it? The criminal elements. So this is my intention. And it is hoped that even the country, even if it is that the politicians may not be mature to do what I have asked, I ask Trinidad and Tobago, let us start uniting from now. We can't wait. I can't do this until 2025. The country may not be able to start to wait until then. If this could be done from now, well then, so be it.
Yeah. Gary Griffith, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, and more so speaking to the civilian and patriot this morning. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.